An alkane is the simplest alkane. However, it's not the only type of organic chemical you can have. For example, you can take a whole bunch of carbons in an alkane and put the ends together. Now, to do this, you have to take off two of the hydrogens, one off each of the end, and you can make a carbon-carbon bond, but you end up with, if you will, a chain, a circular chain of carbon atoms. Now, cycloalkanes are nothing more than alkanes where the ends are kind of put together, like looped together to make like a circle of them, if you will. So you can see down there in the lower part there, that's cyclohexane. Hexane would be 6 carbons if it was straight across, but this is a cyclic compound, so they're all connected in a circle like that. Cyclohexane is kind of interesting. You can see the geometry of it there in that little animation, pretty cool. But there's also cyclopentane, which would be 5 carbons in a circle. Cyclopropane is possible. Cyclobutane would have 4 carbons like in a square, stuff like that. Now you can't have a cycloethane or cyclomethane. You need at least 3 carbons to make a cyclic compound. So cyclopropane is the first of the cycloalkanes. Notice how the formula changed. It's now CnH2n. Alkanes were CnH2n plus 2. So alkanes and cycloalkanes are not isomers of each other because they have different formulas. And you can recognize from the formula itself right away if it could be a cycloalkane or it could be an alkane. Here's a question where we have those same formulas, and it says which one could be a cycloalkane. Now, to have a cycloalkane, you need twice as many hydrogens as you have carbons. So answer 3, which was our alkane earlier, is not going to fly, too many hydrogens. Answer 4 doesn't have enough hydrogens by any means, and answer 5 has an oxygen, so 3, 4, and 5 are out. But both 1 and 2 have a 2-to-1 ratio, so those could be potentially cycloalkanes. Except you can't have 2 carbons and make a chain, like a circle, all right? You have to have at least 3. So number 1, even though it's the right formula, it's not going to be a cycloalkane. Only answer 2 could do that, all right? Because you could have 5 carbons in a circle, if you will. That would be cyclopentane. You can't have 2 carbons in a row. That would be like a cycloethane or something like that. That C2H4 is something else, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. If you have an alkane and you take one of the hydrogens off, or more than one for that matter, and you put a halide on there, you create what's called an alkyl halide. So an alkyl halide is nothing more than an organic compound that has some kind of halogen. Often chlorine, bromine, and iodine, sometimes fluorine. You could have any of the halogens, but those are the most common ones. So the generic representation for an alkyl halide would be the alkyl group R connected to one of the halogens. Halogens usually get the symbol X for whatever reason, so R/X would be an alkyl halide. Now, the generic formula for an alkyl halide, assuming there's only one halogen, would be CnH2n plus 1X. So you'd have one halogen taking up one of the spaces where the hydrogen was. If you had 2 halogens, then you'd have just 2 N hydrogens, etc., etc. Probably the most famous of these compounds is methyl iodide, which is also called iodomethane. Either way is fine. CH3I would be a methyl group and an iodide. That's why that version is used a lot. Iodomethane, if this was an alkane, it would be methane, but there's obviously iodine where the hydrogen was, so sometimes it's called iodomethane. Same thing, either name is great with me. I have no problems with either version. 2-iodopropane would have a propane, which is 3 carbons in a row. Instead of having just propane, though, there's an iodine off the second carbon. So you could call this 2-iodopropane, all right, which is an iodine off the second carbon. That's also known as 2-propyl iodide. Both versions are used. Talk to your organic instructor to tell which one is the preferred method. One famous alkyl halide is called trichloromethane. It's CHCl3, but you probably have heard of this before as chloroform. And chloroform has a really fascinating history. It was used for a while in dentistry as something to help people get through dental operations and stuff. Also, chloroform will knock people out if you put it over your mouth. So hence the joke there of the woman with the XX bottle. Just be careful around chloroform, definitely. So let's say we wanted to name this compound. All right, this is an alkyl halide. It's basically an alkane, all carbons with sp3 tetrahedral arrangements, but one of the hydrogens has been taken off and we've got a bromine right there. Also notice there's another hydrogen off this one, the first one, and it's been replaced with a chlorine. So we have a bromine and a chlorine. Now a lot of times bromine and chlorine are referred to as bromo and chloro in these kind of things. So let's figure out what the name would be. First of all, longest chain would be 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons. That would be a butane if it was an alkane. And then when you number this thing, and I would both go left to right and right to left, you could go 1, 2, 3, 4. So the bromine would be off the third one, chlorine would be off the fourth one. Answer D would be right there. However, like I said, do it both ways. Count both directions, especially when you're learning. So the carbon on the far right would be 1. That carbon would be 2, 3, 4. You could also call this a 2-bromo 1-chloro system. So if you look at this long enough, you will definitely see that a better name here is 2-bromo 1-chloro. If you count right to left, the bromine is off the second carbon and the chlorine's off the first one. Bromine alphabetically comes before chloro, so that's why it's listed first. 2-bromo 1-chlorobutane. Good to go. So far, all of our compounds have been tetrahedral sp3 carbons with single bonds, 109-degree angles, stuff like that. But you don't have to have tetrahedral 109-degree angles. So for example, you could have a carbon-carbon triple bond. So these carbons then would be sp hybridized. You're going to have 180-degree angles, all that kind of jazz. So if you happen to have a carbon-carbon triple bond, this is called an alkyne. And an alkyne is just a organic compound with a triple bond between the carbons. And you can see how the generic representation changes. Now, making a triple bond instead of a single bond, you have to lose not just 2, but actually 4 hydrogens. So the generic alkyne formula, CnH2n minus 2. Now, naming them isn't too hard. You would name this as if it was an alkane, but then you change the ane ending to a yne. And also, you need a number for the triple bond. The triple bond is very reactive. There's cool stuff you can do with it. So if there's any question as to where the triple bond is, include a number. So on the right-hand side at the top right there, we have 2-pentyne. If you count up the carbons, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the pent part. If you count left to right, the triple bond starts at the second carbon. That's going to be a 2-pentyne because you could have, for example, a 1-pentyne. You could have the triple bond start between the first and second carbons, for example. Keep going down. Propyne would be 3 carbons with a triple bond. The next 2 examples show 2 of the hexynes. Hexynes have many different places to place the triple bond. So in the kind of first one right there, off the 1, 2, the second carbon, you would have 2 hexyne, and the second one, 1, 2, 3 from either direction, the triple bond starts at the third carbon, so 3 hexyne. Kind of cool. The most common and most famous probably of the alkynes is ethyne, which is 2 carbons together. Those carbons would have a triple bond between them. The common name for ethyne is acetylene, and if you've ever seen anybody use an acetylene torch, you see how much energy is given off. They're activating that triple bond basically to make the energy that allows welding to occur. Pretty exciting.